Nice to meet you, everyone. I'm Youngso Choi, Community Manager for WEMIX. I'd like to start off by thanking each of you for taking time to join us today. We're here today to engage with the WEMIX team and learn more about how games can be transformed into blockchain games. You can also realize the potential of launching your own blockchain game through WEMIX Play, the world's largest blockchain gaming platform. Many of us acknowledge that change is inevitable, and we are aware of the importance of being part of the change. However, it is never easy when it comes to technology. Today's session and panel discussion will be a great opportunity to discover how WEMIX Play supports game developers to take the next leap towards the future of gaming industry. Join in on the discussion and ask questions directly to the key members of our WEMIX team towards the end of the session. Before we start the panel discussion, we'll briefly introduce our panels today. Starting from Rob, please tell us your name and your role.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rob. I am the business head for Business Creative Center at WEMADE, and I work with various teams within the company to develop, plan, and service different services within our platform. So yeah, thanks for being here, and welcome.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you. I'm Juan. I do corp dev for the company. So some of my role includes working with third-party developers and third-party publishers as well, trying to onboard some of their products onto our platform. And so I usually talk with a lot of devs, producers, and giving them an understanding of what they need to do to bring their Web 2 game over to our Web 3 platform.
Hi, my name is Wook Kim. I'm VP of Business and Operations from WeMade's US office in Irvine, California. And I also do business development. And my role is to look for developers and forge strategic partnerships. And thank you for being here.
Thank you for your introduction. Now let's get to solve our curiosities about the process of transforming games into blockchain games through WEMIX Play. First of all, I'll start with the question about the main goal while developing WEMIX Play and its components, such as tokenomics, GameFi, marketplace, and community. Each of you may have your own answer.
Okay, I guess I'll start. The 4 components on WEMIX Play was developed so that we could bridge the gap between traditional games, and it's a huge industry with over 3 billion gamers in the world. And with the implementation and introduction of new technology in the form of blockchain, we see tendencies that there are difficulties and hindrances in place where developers are having difficulties implementing these great technologies. So with that being said, our goal is to make it easy for developers to onboard WEMIX Play, creating new experiences for gamers. And I think that's our foundation, and that's our goal and vision within the company with WEMIX Play. So, yeah.
Do you want to contribute?
No, I think Rob answered it pretty clearly. So,
yeah, if I may add, I think what Rob said is perfectly correct. I mean, there are a lot of things that's involved in bringing a Web 2 game over to a Web 3 platform. And what we do is we facilitate developers trying to bring their stuff over. So there's a lot of technical terms, there's a lot of things that might be new, but we try to make that really easy. And with our SDK, it just takes a day or two for you to integrate our SDK into your game. So it's something that you can do very easily without a deep understanding. But on top of that, one of the things that we're really good at is tokenomics, because we've been working with 24 games. We have 24 games live on our platform right now, and we've got about maybe 15 more coming in the next couple months. And so, the games that we're working on right now, we're incrementally making our tokenomics for these new games better and better. So if you have a question, not just on the tech side, but on the game design side, we will handhold you through that process as well.
Thank you. So in concern with tokenomics, we realized that there are a wide variety of tokens present in WEMIX Play. So could you give us a brief description of each?
Sure, yeah. I've actually done a session yesterday regarding the tokenomics, but to make it simple, tokenomics are designed to synergize with the game's design itself. So we can't really categorize what works best for games in general, but rather we look into how the game was designed, especially the in-game economics, and utilizing that and benefiting the existing economics within the game through this new technology, and in the form of tokenomics is our goal. So essentially, we do have 5 categories that we have explained through the session yesterday, but ultimately it's to uniquely design each tokenomics according to how the game is designed in the first place.
Yeah, if I may add to that, I mean, because we have 24 games, we have a variety of tokens. Each individual games has at least their own token, so there is an economy within that game that's just for that game. And as we've grown the size of the games on our platform, we've realized that some games, there's things that you can do inter-game. So there are games, franchises, where you can bring one asset or use a token from one game and port it over to another game, which gives advantages or new experiences in that new game. And we've been very successful. We've done this, and we think there's something there. And so another thing that we're looking at, instead of using a single, bridging 2 games together, is how can we work with small, more casual games? Can we bring 10 or 20 of these games under a single token? So they're all different games, but they're all using the single token. And then, how do we do, how do we divide the farming? How do we divide the distribution? How do we do the tokenomics for each different game? So, I mean, these are some of the new things that we're looking at. And so our 24 games, I think we have about more than 24 tokens right now. But, I mean, each new game will get its own tokenomics design as well as their own token for now.
Thank you. It would be good to see as the tokenomics that were made will be fitted to each type of game. So the next question would be, what aspect did developers consider for each game to build tokenomics that fits it?
Well, I guess I would say, first and foremost, they would have to look into, as I said, how the game is designed in terms of how the in-game economy works and runs. Because, for example, if we have a casual game where it's simple, you're just beating different levels and progressing through the game, and you implement a very technical and complicated tokenomics on top of that, it may not work well. So they tend to choose, those developers tend to choose the route of simplifying their tokenomics. So that's what we categorize as exchangeable tokenomics. So it's tying in the pros or weighing the pros and cons of how the game is designed internally, and then applying what we know from our experience, helping the developers to come up with the right tokenomics that would benefit the gamer's experience.
Yeah, and some developers choose to not adopt tokenomics at all. So that's another way that we can also support the developers. If they choose not to, they can also just do NFTs in their game. So we leave it up to the developers. So developers know their game the most, but we help and support any types of tokenomics design if they choose to, but it's not limited to that. So once again, yeah, the developers have the option to choose.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And the next question would be directly to Wonil. How is the onboarding process, and how long is the onboarding process?
Oh, so onboarding, technically, if you're an experienced developer and you've worked with third-party SDKs, I mean, integration is, realistically, it's a day or two. It's not something very complicated. What can make it a little more complicated is how you design your tokenomics. So that part is not a technical issue on an onboarding process, but it's more of a game design issue. So when we are first approached by a developer trying to put their game on our platform, we look at their content, we look at their game design, and let's assume it's an RPG. And for that RPG, we have different sort of templates that we can suggest to them. Well, because your game is this way, it's probably going to fit with template B. So they'll look at that. They'll take it back internally to their studio, and their designer is going to look at their game. They're going to look at our template and say, hey, yeah, there's some things that's not going to work. Some things are good. And after an iteration or two, they're going to get back to us saying, hey, we looked at it. This is what we think is going to work for our games. What do you guys think? And so our team will look at it again, give them feedback. And if it's it's simple RPG, there's different levels of depth. And if you want to do a light level of tokenomics, it's not going to be very difficult. But if you want to really go down and you have to change a lot of the game mechanics within your game, then that process can take a couple weeks, a month or two, depending on how free your the studio's developers, how much time they have. But besides that, besides the tokenomics issue, the onboarding part of actually putting their game on our platform, the integration is really short. So it really is up to the developers and how much time they want to spend. If they want to put it on, if they have a good understanding of their tokenomics, and they want to put it on, a week's enough to put it on our platform. If they want to really go deep, use all of our expertise, we'll do that with them, and that might take maybe 2 months, depending on how the back and forth goes.
Okay, thank you for your kind answer. Then what would be the main difference between traditional games and games of WEMIX Play?
I would say most importantly, it would be providing an added value proposition for the gamers, as well as the developers, actually. Tokenomics as the center of everything, the 4 components, including GameFi, Marketplace, and Community, are all modular services that we provide on the platform. But the key goal that we have with these components is that in traditional gaming, you're spending your time, effort, and money as a hobby, as a sense of a trade for entertainment, if you will. Whereas in blockchain gaming, we're getting rid of that wall now, and we're stepping into an era where gaming itself, it becomes a source of value. So that value is unique to each gamer, whether you decide to spend your time mainly, or if you have a deep wallet, for example. Some people do. Some people enjoy spending in the games that they like. And that also translates into value that can be traded on the blockchain network. So I think that's the biggest difference. And that also aligns with what we're trying to accomplish through our platform.
Yeah, I think excuse me. The main difference is the benefit for the gamers. So traditional games and Web3 games on our platform are pretty much the same. It depends on the game and the gameplay itself. So our games are not gated by NFT purchases, or you have to download a wallet first. So it's just the same as any traditional free-to-play games out there. But the players can actually come and play our games, and with their time and effort, create some value and create their characters minted to an NFT, and also sell it to other players in the marketplace. And with that, with the profits that they can make, they can take it to another game on our platform. And there's just more things that we allow players to do with the values that they create. And I think that's going to be the main difference.
Yeah, if I may add, yes, I think we do provide some value to develop for the players as well. But one of the things that we've seen is that as players are more involved and they see value within the game that they're playing, they tend to play the games longer. They tend to log in more. So as a developer, you have a community that's more, they're bigger fans of your game. And so it's not just the users receiving value. I think as developers, if you create a game and you've got the same 100,000 people playing it, Web3 users are, at least the gamers on our platform, are more, it's their game. It's not a game that they play. So we'll see higher retention rates. We'll see higher payment user rates. We'll see more logins. So as a developer, if you're developing a Web2 game and you want to add a Web3 layer on top of it, I don't think it's different, but your metrics will get better. So it's actually something that you want to do because it's going to help your game, not just the players, but as a developer.
I think Juan's spot on here. That reminds me, understanding the nature of blockchain games, we look at the community, and community is considered one of the most important aspects in the gaming industry. And it allows us to utilize the community a bit more and further in depth. So, for example, existing communities in the gaming sphere they have tendencies to stick to a single genre, whereas on WEMIX Play, there are multiple genre and cross-platform gaming. And all of that works towards the benefit where developers can expect the number of users that are existing within the platform, because these blockchain gamers have a new value that they're following. So it's not just simple gaming, but as I mentioned, there's added benefit to them in the form of creation of value. So that allows them to move between games that surpasses the existing barriers of genre-specific games, as well as different types of play and region, for that matter. So I think it's providing the gamers with limitless potential of, it would be providing the developers also the potential of utilizing the existing fan base and the gamer base within the platform. And I think that's important because when you launch a new game, one of the goals is to succeed with the game launch. And with that being said, I think the underlying factor comes down to, hey, are we going to get a lot of user acquisition? How are we going to get to that? And I think we resolve that issue with this solution on the platform.
Yes, thank you for your answer. So in concern with community, what Rob mentioned right before, what do you think would be the biggest change after implementing Papyrus, which is the community platform of WEMIX?
Should I go? I'm talking about, sorry. So Papyrus is, let me give you a brief explanation of what that is. Papyrus is our blockchain-based wallet or wallet-based token-gated community. And this is revolutionizing how communities are built in the gaming industry, because before, communities were centered around specific game titles, whereas now, through Papyrus, and understanding that on the platform, each game will have its own unique tokens in the form of fungible tokens, so regular tokens, as well as NFTs. So utilizing these assets, we can categorize different player base and automatically and organically gather them together into an active community. Better, going further than that, we can grant access solely to the ones that own certain assets. So if, for example, from the panel here, if Juan and I own the same type of game tokens, we could access the official channel created just for those users that own those assets. Whereas if Wook doesn't own the same asset, he wouldn't gain access. So this is a fun way of interacting with the community. And as a developer, you can also utilize this technology by gathering core test members in the earlier phases. So you can use your specific tokens, and whoever owns that or holds that token can participate in specific testing phases during the alpha or beta. So yeah, I think this is pretty interesting. We're seeing some traction already. It's been less than a week since we launched it. And we're already seeing thousands of members that are participating in different categories of community.
Yeah, if I may just add, it also gets rid of a lot of the toxicity within communities around games. Most importantly, yeah, the trolls who are there just to increase the negativity around the game because it's gated by the token. The community is formed with a common goal to better the community, to better the game, and to provide feedback to the developers to increase better user experience. So I think that's very important for Papyrus.
Thank you. It was quite interesting to hear the benefits to participate in Papyrus. Now let's jump into the question about NFT. So how can NFT contribute to expand the gaming cycle?
Yeah, so I mean, I want to make sure that there's an understanding that not all Web3 games need NFTs. I mean, yes, you need tokenomics for each different game, but some games don't require or shouldn't require NFTs because it's something that you can do as part of your tokenomics plan. You can say, well, I want to add NFTs because it has this value. But I think we've seen a lot of games that are just adding NFTs because it seems cool without real utility or real use cases. But I mean, if you design your tokenomics well and you give value to the users that hold that NFT, I mean, they can mint their own NFT. I mean, you can do it in different ways. But once you feel like you own something, it's like a badge of honor. When you're playing this game and you have a certain NFT or a certain stuff or a character or an asset, if it's just within that game, you know, it's fun. I mean, within that community, you get some acknowledgement. But if you're able to bring that out, I mean, it's only the people that will know the value of those NFTs that will give you credibility. But I think there's things that through an NFT, you're showing signals to other people in that community of what you like, what you do. And it's a very quick way of understanding, like, hey, that guy has similar interests as I do. For example, I used to play a lot of WoW back then, and then I'd have some level capped characters, and that was it. I haven't logged on for about 12, 13 years. That asset that I built in the game, and it's not just about the money part. I mean, I'm not going to sell my characters or for money. I mean, I could if through an NFT, but if I didn't want to, that's fine. But the fact that I can still own that and feel like, hey, I haven't logged in the game for years, but I can always go to my LinkedIn page or I can go to my website on my Facebook and say, hey, yeah, this little badge of honor or this NFT can tell my friends what my interests are and how much I've played the game and that I'm a fan of something. It could be of a game. It could be fans of different communities like artists or music or concerts, things like that. So a lot of it is not, I mean, NFTs shouldn't be there for you to make money off it. I mean, I think that's just how the industry got. A lot of companies started selling NFTs because it was a source of income. And I think that approach is not correct for a lot of games. For some games, it might work, some games not. But NFTs, it's something that you feel proud to own. And so I think if you have that affiliation with a content, in our case being a game, I mean, you're a fan, you're an evangelist for the game. I mean, there's so many things that brings inherent value as an NFT holder. So I would when I talk with developers, I would say, do you really want NFTs? Is it adding real value to your game? I mean, are you doing this because you think it's going to make money for you? And if they answer yes to the last question, I think their approach is not the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think Juan's answer was great, but if I can just add, I think NFTs, like Juan said, not every game needs NFTs, but if I can just share an example of Mirror 4, how we incorporated NFTs to the game. Once you start playing a character, you level it up, you progress with your character, you can mint your character to an NFT. In my example, this is my case that I played in Mirror 4. I started with the warrior, I leveled to like level 90, and then I wanted to start playing a different character. So I minted my warrior to an NFT and sold it in the marketplace. And with the gains I received, I was able to purchase a Taoist character. So it also helps with the longevity of the game where the gamer is done playing a certain type of class and wants to participate in the game again using a different character class. I think this is beneficial for not just the gamer who's selling the product, but the NFT, but also the person that's purchasing it, where a new user might come in and say, I don't want to spend 3 or 4 months just grinding. I just want to be able to be at the level of my friends that I want to play with. And I think these are all beneficial for NFTs in the case of Mirror 4 that we created. But as Juan said, every game is different. It all depends on how you want to incorporate NFTs into your game, which is going to be beneficial for the users.
Thank you for your answer. Then what would be the specific benefits for game users in trading NFTs through the marketplace of WEMIX Play? It would be very helpful if you could explain briefly about what the marketplace is.
Marketplace is exactly how it sounds. It's a place of trade. And utilizing NFT as the main source of assets, what gamers can do with this solution is that it works off of what Wook just answered in the previous question. NFT is a way of utilizing sole ownership of game assets, and with that, that as an underlying factor, users can trade their self-owned assets and even trade it to enter into a different game, if you will. So this works back to my original input of what blockchain game offers as a whole. It's the fact that you can create value through gaming. So NFT expands that experience where gamers can truly transfer what they own in-game, which is originally owned by developers. And now it becomes your own asset that is significant to your gameplay style. And you can trade it to not only earn, but utilize what you have spent over the period of gameplay and trade it for other assets that you can utilize in different games as well. So I think that's one of the main things that we see with NFT trading on marketplaces. Especially with our blockchain, this is a bit technical, but with our blockchain technology, we made sure that the experience is first and foremost the most important factor. What that means is there are chains out there that will take quite a bit of time in making the trade and affirming the trade. Our chain is really fast, and we made sure that it's fast, but it's also cheap. And that's important because when we're trading assets, we don't want to hinder player experiences. So we don't want to have them pay $50 to trade a $75 asset, right? So it's just being logical and making sure that this is what we want as gamers ourselves and delivering the best service possible through the marketplace.
Yeah, and by the way, I have done that. I've spent about $40 trading a $50 item before, so I know how it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I guess on our chain, it is very different. But another thing about marketplace that I think is important, and this is for all marketplaces, but especially your own. When you're playing a game, let's say you're playing on your PC or your mobile phone, or maybe it's a PC game and it's really heavy. It's a 10 gig download. You can't run it on your phone. But you want to access stuff in your game. You go to our marketplace. It's a website. It's in a browser. So there's things that you can do outside the game that you weren't able to do before. So I think that brings another point of contact for the users to engage in the content of the game. So I think being able to bring stuff out, and it's there's trade, there's things, but when you look at NFTs, and for example, if you are interested in something, and you got a recommendation recommended for you, other people with this NFT or similar search history bought these other stuff, I think it's a new way of discovery. And as developers, you can be able to show up. If you can target the number of people or the audience that's interested in a certain part or a certain type of NFTs, and you're able to market your NFTs or your games through that, I think there's also a lot of value there that I think that's not there unless. Because right now, you got to be in the game. You got to download that client. You got to install it. You got to log in. You got to level up. There's a lot of things that's involved before you get to that point. But through Marketplace, you're there and you can see all these things. So I think it's another point of entry, which I think developers could utilize a lot more.
Thank you for your answer. What you mentioned about NFTs was very insightful. Then what was the most difficult part in connecting in-game items and goods into real assets that can be used as a medium of exchange in the real world?
Okay, most difficult. Well, we've experienced a lot of difficulties, to be honest, and I think that's a very important point. In the earlier phases, there were issues with how NFTs are supposed to be non-fungible. And tying the benefits of technology and gamer experiences is not always easy. So I think one thing that I would point out is it's difficult to have gamers understand how technology works. We've taken a lot of effort and background experience in educating these gamers, but we also wanted to alleviate the difficulties in that education process. So for us, I think in order to make the experience fluid, we needed to make it so that it all seems gamey, if you will. So it has to reflect. If we look at some of our actual examples in the past, the Mirror 4 game that Wook just mentioned before, the characters became NFTs, but we made sure that it looks like a character. You log into the site, it's not a bunch of code, but rather just a template of your character. It also provides detailed information of the items that the character has, and details of the stats that the gamers understand inside the game. So this is the process that we have incorporated in making NFTs, so that when we look at NFTs nowadays, even for me, sometimes it's difficult to understand. Like, what is this used for? What is it exactly? Where do I take this? What do I do with it? Whereas on our platform, it's all game-oriented. So, a gamer comes and looks at our NFT, they get it from the get-go right away.
Yeah, I think the most difficult part was actually educating the player base, because the NFT or Web3 gaming is pretty new to the market in the games industry, and it is difficult to understand. And there are a lot of bad actors in the industry that, the developers sold the NFTs before the game even comes out, and then they end up not launching the game, where people who purchased it had to lose out. There were a lot of negative sentiment. It's improving though, by the way. But so just educating players on what NFTs are and how to interact with them and make use of it. I think that was the most difficult part. Just having to educate using words that every normal, everyday gamer can understand.
Thank you for your answer. It was quite interesting to hear what you talk about NFTs. So this would be our last question. What was the most difficult part in developing among the 4 steps of WEMIX Play, tokenomics, GameFi, marketplace, or community? Each of you may have your own answer.
I was going to go first, but I was just going to talk to set up the stage for Rob, because this question specifically pertains to a lot of the work that he does. So I feel Rob is probably the most suitable person, not just within the company. And we have 1,700 people in the company, so we have a lot of people. Rob is really well versed, but I think globally there are very, very few people that can answer this question as Rob can. Okay, good luck.
All right, thanks. Thanks for setting that up. Just to understand the question better, I understood that if I were to choose out of the 4 components, which was the most difficult, is the question? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, so, I would say all of them were definitely difficult. But if I were to choose, I think tokenomics is definitely the most difficult component. And I think it will be the case in the future as well, because it's not a single service that we can facilitate and be done with it and reused throughout games. Tokenomics represents the uniqueness that each game has in different aspects. And for us, we really need to focus on helping our developers that onboard our platform so that they can provide the best experience to their gamers. And that all works together to help us in our line of business as well, because we're platform oriented. So if the gamers are happy and the user acquisition grows and increases, then more developers will come in, and it's an automatic way to success. So it makes sense, right? But in terms of the difficulty, I would say we have a fine team under Juan, actually, within the company that deals with consultation as well as technical implementation of these tokens that are designed for the games. And I think I would definitely say that we do have one of the strongest teams in the world currently for the gaming sphere. So we help developers very well on designing their tokenomics, but that comes with a necessary cost, which is experience. And I know Juan has 20+ experience in the gaming industry and also years of experience in facilitating these new technology into the games, including the blockchain technology. So to simplify everything, I would say tokenomics definitely most difficult, but we've surpassed that stage and we have data that we can work off of, and we are continuously supporting developers in developing their type of tokens that they can succeed with.
I think when Rob said I've been in the industry for 20 years plus, I think that's his way of getting back to me because I threw the hard question at him. But one of the things that's really difficult about tokenomics is it's not, for example, like 30 years ago or 20 years ago when you made a single player game, you'd ship it out. If there were some bugs, you do an update or a patch and that's it. But with tokenomics, it's like a living thing. I mean, you don't know how your users are going to react. You look at it, you plan it the best you can, and once it goes live, you're going to see how people trade or how people play the game. And depending on how you've designed the tokenomics, there will be some different gameplay. And this is not just tokenomics. This is just in-game economy that as a developer you think about. But with tokenomics, because it does correlate to supply and demand, there are things that we look at, and once we launch a game, maybe a week later or maybe 2 months later, we realize, hey, we can make this tokenomics a little better. We can tweak it this way, and so we've worked with developers 3-4 months later after they've launched the game, where we found out that maybe there are better ways to actually tweak that mechanism. And so it's difficult, not because it's also difficult to design a good one, but after you've designed it, there is a certain amount of maintenance, and the 24 games that we've launched, there's a progression, or there's a knowledge base that's being slowly gathered. And if we look at a game that we've launched 2 years ago versus a game that we're launching now, and if it's the exact same game, the tokenomics would not be the same because we've evolved and the tokenomics of how users interact. So, I mean, that's what's one of the difficult things. And I think Rob said, when he said there's experience matters because we've made a lot of mistakes. Our developers, our companies that are onboarding partners, they've made a lot of mistakes. And we go over that. We see how we can make it better. So I think that's probably the most intensive, but it's also the most rewarding because if you did something right or you've changed something and you see the way the users, the community reacting to that change, it's a very, very good feeling. And so it's tough, but it's rewarding as well.
Yeah, I also agree. So I talked to a lot of studios, and one of the things, the hardships they have turning their game to a Web3 game is the tokenomics, because most of them, they don't have the experience. They haven't done it before. They don't understand it. And that's why I think we all agree that the tokenomics is the most difficult part. But as Juan and Rob said, we have 24 games that's live with tokenomics. And instead of, because it's hard, just giving up on it and just going with NFTs, come talk to us. We can get you to the right people within our organization that will help and support and consult you with the tokenomics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for your kind and detailed answers. Now let's move on and hear the questions of our audiences. For people among who asked questions, our WEMIX team will also grant prizes, which you can also see from the brochure. So if you have any questions, please come out to the standing mic to ask the question.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you very much for your insight and information. My name is Martin Espineto. I'm the founder of Widow Games, which is a game developer company. I founded the company 11 years ago, so we have developed more than 50 mobile games, around 50 mobile games. But 1 year ago, we founded also Gameolution, which is a blockchain incubator for video games. And we are supporting and helping these Web2 traditional gaming companies across LATAM to jump to the Web3 environment. So my question for you is, let's say that we introduce a company for WeMade, for WePlay. What is the expectation in terms of support, and if you cover, the three main areas, which is, technical support, marketing and community, and financial support as well.
Yeah, I'll take that. Even before I start, you should stay at the end of this session and you should sign something with us because I feel like you have some needs that we can cater to. So to your specific questions about what do we do on the tech side, so we have a tech stack. We'll help you. And it's not something that your guys really need to know how to write code or write a smart contract. We do that for you, and we've worked with a lot of developers. So on the tech side, it's not something, unless you want to know more, and we'll guide you through it. You don't really need to be an expert on blockchain technology. That's one. Community. Right now we have about 500,000 people playing our games, the games that are on platform. You can go to our site. It's not WePlay, it's WEMIX Play, by the way. Yeah. Right. Sorry. But you go on that site and you can see the list of games that's on there and how many people are playing. And so because we have a huge volume there, we can, when we promote a new game, when we launch a new game, there's a certain amount of downloads that you'll get. And we not only do that within our site, but we have our different channels that we communicate to our users, to our community. So there's a certain amount of influx that you'll get. So that's on the community side. I've talked with other developers that have launched their games on different chains. And technically, I think chains, there are some better chains, some chains that are worse. But the chain is not going to differentiate the success of that game because it's just the technology. But our user base, the guys that are playing our games on our platform are gamers. So they're not wallet holders that are just in it for crypto. These are people that download games and play the games. So I think even if you were able to get 50,000 downloads right away, which is something, we do anywhere from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, and these are depending on the game, that's the average that we see in our games. We're gamers. The people that are going to download your game are playing for the game. So I think the quality of the community is very different. You said financial support. We don't give much grant as other companies because we feel like we offer value that's not just hey, come to our platform because we want you to be on our platform. We want you to come to our platform because we have users that are gamers. We provide tokenomics, which I think a lot of chains probably cannot. Definitely nowhere close to what we can provide. So I feel like we don't do grants, but we can, and we have done some grants or swaps. We've done investments. We look at a whole array of things, but generally our goal is not to say, hey, we're going to give you money, come on board. We want you to come on board because you see the value that we provide as a gaming platform.
Okay. And if you don't mind, can I follow one question on that? What is your take on, let's say, the Google Play and the App Store? Because one of the things that we really push to the companies is to, implement Web3 components, but for the freemium games. I believe that many of the games that we're seeing right now, blockchain games, we are still talking to the same niche of people, and a lot of them are actually traders, not gamers. So going to the Google Play, trying to push the boundaries, what we can do, and it's going to be approved by the App Store and Google Play. Do you help the companies also doing that and with direct contact with Google and Apple?
I wish I worked for Google and Apple so I can answer your questions with the most latest detail. But I think their policies are changing. Yeah. And because we're a platform, we don't actually put the games live on those sites ourselves. The third-party developers who are onboarding, they do it. We do give them advice because we have experience there. But we can't really talk to every developer with Apple or Google about each different apps, and I don't think that's our job per se because they do have guidelines that you should follow as a developer. And a lot of our games, and when we talk with developers, say, yeah, you got to follow their guidelines. You don't want to do anything that they wouldn't like because then you shouldn't be on that platform. I think we do have experience on what you can do that they're okay with, and so we can give you advice and consulting on that. But actual getting your games on that platform, we won't be able to do that.
No.
Right.
Makes sense. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yes, I would want to ask about the fund or grant, if you have something about it, but you already answered, so I will going to change my question. And it's more like a technical aspect of the game. So you mentioned that until now, each game that you have in the platform has a different token. So you have a token for each game. So do you help the developers to manage the inflation or deflation of this token inside the games? Because imagine that I have a game and a normal player, a regular player, play the game and earns, I don't know, 1 token per day. And sometime I decided to, as a developer, I decided to create something bigger, a promotion or whatever, that each player that reach this level or this challenge, we're gonna get, I don't know, 50 tokens. So do you have some kind of management on that, or it depends on the developer? How do you envision this kind of thing?
Should I take this?
Oh, yeah.
I'll take this. Well, in the process of designing and implementing, we call it minting, but implementing new tokenomics for a new game launch, we take into consideration of the inflation as well. So one of the categories that we have set out in the types, different types of tokenomics is, we refer to as allotment tokenomics. And this is where and all tokenomics, by the way, are based off of smart contracts. So there's no third party, including us. We don't get into any sort of management per se. But we need to make sure before minting those tokens, we need to understand the needs and consider for inflation as well, among other factors. And we launched the token through smart contracts, and it will work in accordance to how it was coded. So there's no way of changing it. So let's put that as the foundation. Now, the consulting and the experience that we have, I think, comes into play at this time. So when we're speaking with different developers on how the gameplay works, how the in-game economy is situated, and we talk to the developer, we discuss it with the developer to make sure that, taking, for example, the allotment tokenomics will work well with your game because we believe the type of game that you have will have a massive inflow of new users in the beginning. Now, if we take, for example, another type of tokenomics that is exchangeable tokenomics, whereas doesn't necessarily have inflationary countermeasures for inflationary issues. So if we have 100 people playing the game and there's 100 tokens being created a day, and then all of a sudden we have 1,000 the next day, and there'll be 1,000 tokens being created through the exchange tokenomics. Whereas allotment tokenomics is created so that it's designed so that there's 100 tokens being created per day, regardless of how many people are playing. So we call it allotment because it's designed in a way so that it's proportionately distributed among all of the gamers that are playing. So this is an example of an actual game with a unique type of tokenomics that works against inflation.
Just if I may, to your first question, we don't call it grants. But if you're a Web2 developer and you've got content and you want to add tokenomics to it, but maybe you're a small developer, you don't have the necessary resources, and you're not sure if you want to take the risk of adding another person or two, we do have an assistance program where we look at your content, and if it's good enough and we think it's strong enough, and we want you to have that experience of bringing something over to Web3, then we do have a fund that we can give to you. It's not going to be millions of dollars, but it should be enough to cover your man-month costs to actually bring it over to our platform. That's one. And if I may add, so when you bring your tokenomics to us and you sign a contract, an onboarding contract with us, we give you a template of what we think might work for your game. You look at it, you give us a revision, we'll look at it, and we'll know like within 10 minutes if this is inflationary or not. I mean, we have that much experience. We're like, yeah, this is not going to work for you because, one, there are not enough things, or you're not factoring in all these other things. So, I mean, we designed that for you from the get-go. And maybe later on, 3 months in, 3 months out, you have questions, you can come back to us, and our guys will get back to you on our thoughts. So we do some consulting there. So, I mean, we're not going to let you hang by yourself after you've onboarded. And, if your game's crashing, I mean, we don't actually control the actual price of the tokens. That's not our job. But we can tell you that the in-game economics within your game and the tokenomics is messed up by looking at just the simple diagram of what your developers are trying to do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi. First, thanks so much for the information. I feel like I learned a lot, and I discovered just during GDC, and so it feels like school. It's really great, and I'm excited. I have a lot of questions, so I'm just going to keep it simple to one. Do you support new developers? And you had mentioned your communities are mostly gamers. Are those hardcore gamers, or is there also casual gamers involved? And in terms of game design, do you suggest focusing your mechanics around the tokenomics, or is tokenomics something that can be overlaid onto the game mechanics at a later point?
Okay, yeah. So your last question, can you overlay tokenomics onto an already existing game design? The answer is yes, but if you really want to make good tokenomics, I think you might want to make changes to the current design that you have in your game. I mean, you're putting it's like, this is your Web 2 game, and you can put a little cap here and it'll be a Web 3 game. But if you really want this to be a really good Web 3 game, I suggest that, that you look at your in-game economy and see what you need to change. And we'll work with you on that. We'll give you some advice, because you're going to probably have in-app purchases or free-to-play mechanisms, microtransaction stuff in there. What do you want to bring over to the tokenomics side, and how do you want to create sinks for your game? So it's, very short answer is yes, you can just overlay it, but if you want to really go deep, you don't want to just do that. Yeah.
To add to that, I think initial question that you had was, if I were to rephrase it, I understood it as, is there a specific type of game or genre that matches well with transformation into blockchain games? I think the answer is definitely no, because we've seen it with data on our platform that we have 24 games and 26 tokens currently available on the platform, all unique. But I would say, if we are successful in implementing an MMORPG with the blockchain elements, then I think we're good to go with all the other genres. Because the fact that the depth of gameplay required to create a good and successful MMORPG surpasses any other genre, in my personal opinion. So, and we have done that. And yeah, we have casual games, we have social games. There's no limitation to what type of game that can be onboarded onto the platform.
Thank you very much.
Hello. So I'm really fascinated by the idea of inter-game play that you mentioned. And I'm curious if you could expand upon that, because it kind of gives me a sense of the potential for crossovers between maybe developer to developer, not just like one developer game to game. I was curious if you could expand and maybe give an example of one that's already existing, some inter-game play mechanics that you've got operational.
Yeah, sure. So, well, I think Wook's also, because he's a heavy mirror player. Do you want to answer that question? Or okay, yeah. So a lot of misconception is, well, you can Web3 games, you can bring an NFT from game Y to game Z. One's running on Unity, the other one's on Unreal. How are you going to do it? They're different. All these problems persist. So it's actually not going to be that easy. And I think there's no protocol right now, or game developers haven't agreed to a systematic way of doing that. Right now, if you want to do that, it's got to be you have to talk with that development studio or that development team. So the game that we've mentioned before is our franchise. We have a franchise called Mirror. So we launched a game about two years ago, Mirror 4. We launched about 2 months ago another game called Mirror M. So these are totally two independent games. They all have different user bases. Similar user bases, but they're different games. So what we've been able to do is we've created a tokenomics in Mirror M, the latter game, where we've said, hey, you can just play this game, great, you can do everything here. But if you really want to go hardcore, if you want to do something more in the game, you need access to some of the sort of tokens in this game. Of course, you don't have to play this game. You can buy through our exchange. We have a DEX where you can trade all your coins with different things. And if you just want to play this game, great. But if you're a user here and you've leveled up your character, you've played it for, you spent a lot of time on it, and once you realize there's a franchise, and if you're able to bring some of that asset over and you have some access to new content or some things that regular people, they don't have to have it because you can just play it without that. But once you realize that there's some connectivity there, we've seen the user increase from, we've seen Mirror M being successful, but this only, it actually does not distract from this game because we've actually seen the numbers for this game go up as well, and trading volume and all of that. Imagine GTA 1, 2, 3, 4, all these series, they're all independent. There's nothing that you bring over. So I think NFTs are hard to do, but currencies, cryptos within different games are easy to do because it's all on the blockchain. It's all within our sphere of control. There's no graphics. It's really easy to implement. But how do you design the tokenomics of this game? And you can bring over some of the users or values from this side. That really is a design on tokenomics part.
Excuse me, just in case we have 5 minutes left. If there are any more questions, please feel free to head out and continue. And Rob, Wonil, and Wook, you can designate 3 people among who asked questions and give presents now.
Yeah, I think we can answer. There's 3 more gentlemen, right?
We'll answer quickly. Yeah, quickly.
Thank you.
Because they've been waiting.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can be quick, no problem. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting, and I actually discovered recently Crypto Arena on WEMIX that I really enjoyed playing. I'm Flower from the Blockchain Game Alliance. We're a non-profit organization where our mission is spread adoption for blockchain gaming. And we do a lot of educational content to actually explain why blockchain matters for gaming. So my question would be, maybe for each one of you, or I actually just wanted to have your opinion about what will be the key drivers of adoption for helping Web3 gaming to grow in terms of acquiring more players.
Should I?
Yep.
I would definitely say 2 things. One, creating value. Second would definitely be making the process easier, which is what we're all about. So we're not forcing you to learn different technologies. We're not forcing you to understand blockchain technology. We're making it so that the implementation of this new technology is easy for you, and the hard work is internal. Yeah.
Just a short answer to that as well is, I think in the future, if you're a gamer, you're going to say, hey, I can play game X, I can play game Y. And they're similar in quality or my value for these games. But one has blockchain technology where, there's some assets. There's things that I can do more because of this technology. Now, if you're a user and you've got this choice, what are you going to choose? You're going to choose the game that has that technology. Right now, I think the games that most Web3 games out there are not at par. And so, we do see users make a choice between different games. But once there is an adoption of this technology, it's not the developers trying to make more games. It's the consumers that are going to say, hey, I want this type of game. Oh, your game doesn't support that? I'm just going to play this type of game. So I feel like you need good content, but the adoption is not going to come from the amount of content. It's going to come from users wanting more of that content, which I think users will be able to understand. And give us a couple of years, the whole industry, gamers, will realize, hey, if you can put that in your game, I'd like your game more. And so developers will naturally try to be more Web3.
Yeah, just kind of make it short. Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think, when the game market used to be just, package games, subscription games, it changed to, free to play with microtransactions. We're also going to see the exact same thing happen in the next, few years, hopefully, that it's going to be blockchain-enabled Web3 games.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hello. I was just curious about the countermeasures you guys have in place in case of asset theft.
Can you repeat the question?
Countermeasures in place in case of asset theft.
Sorry, I wasn't able to understand.
Countermeasures that are in place in case of asset theft.
Oh, asset theft. The question was countermeasures. What kind of countermeasures do we have for theft, for asset classes that are prone to theft?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's more of a security question, right?
Yeah. Yes.
You want to answer that?
Okay. Well, it's blockchain-based, right? Blockchain, the whole hype behind this new technology is because it's secure. And the security measures, it's not onefold. There's multiple aspects to the security. because we're utilizing, especially with all the assets, so we're not touching too much upon the in-game data or how the gameplay is oriented on the back end. But when it comes to blockchain assets and trading of assets, it's fully on-chain, which means we utilize all the pros of the blockchain technology. With this being said, if we are, simply put, we wouldn't be susceptible to any sort of theft or security breaches differently from how Ethereum is right now. So understanding that the security measures are in place due to the technology being what it is, which is blockchain. If you want to learn more about blockchain technology, I think we would need a lot more time than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had a bunch of other. Thank you.
I was just in multiplayer games. There's always you have to be wary of people cheating and hacking in the game. I was wondering if there was any countermeasures to if someone were to be able to break like you guys were talking about an MMO. If you were able to bring a brand new character and add a hack or something so that they would just be able to constantly pump out a level 90 character constantly and overflood the market with those and then just kind of crash the coin. Is there any countermeasures against that? So
Yeah, that's a great question. We've seen this not just on blockchain games. It's just your question is general MMO questions, all MMOs. I mean, there are security measures that's not our own that you should think about when you design your game. But on the blockchain side, it's actually because we can track everything. I mean, we look at data every day, things that's weird, and if something pops up, we can actually make sure that it doesn't affect the economy on the token side because there are some things that we can do. So I think there's not one single solution, but if you look at your data and you see a spike that shouldn't be there, we'll help you look at it together and we'll trace it. And we've banned some accounts. We've done some other, because there are bad actors in the game. I think you want us to quit, right? Yeah, your time. Yep, we're at time.
All right, that was our last question, I think.
Thank you very much.
Right,
Thank you, guys.
Okay, those who have asked questions, please head out to the exit to receive your prizes. Thank you for your time.
And you want us to yeah, do your evaluations, guys.
Yes, homework.
It's always 5, right? There's nothing but 5 there. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.